Just want to remind those who are watching, subscribe. We really appreciate it. Like our videos, share them with your friends. We really do appreciate it. The question that comes is it right to blame leadership when things go wrong? And this lesson is going to teach us something pretty valuable. The lesson found in this parsha. Now, leadership obviously is often scrutinized in times of crisis and blamed. Blame is, let me take my glasses off. I hate the glare. Blame frequently placed upon those in charge when things go wrong. This is a natural human reaction as leaders actually are seen as the guiding force behind success or failure. However, the question still remains, is it really fair to attribute all the failures to leadership? In this parsha, it provides us a valuable insight into this discussion, particularly through its emphasis on responsibility, transparency, and collective accountability. This lesson is a universal lesson that applies to every human being alive today. Parshas Pikudi, the final portion of the book of Exodus, details the completion of the Mishkan. It includes the exact amounts of materials used. They had brought in all of these precious jewels to be used in the construction, emphasizing the integrity and faithfulness of Moses and other leaders involved. This meticulous record highlights the importance of transparency in leadership, demanding that leaders should not only guide their people, but also be accountable for their actions as well as his own or her own. Now, by presenting a full accounting of the resources we see used in this text, Moses sets an example of how leadership should function, and that is with openness and complete responsibility. This portion also implicitly addresses the question of leadership blame. Throughout the construction of the Mishkan, Moses delegated tasks to skilled artisans, particularly Bezalel and Oliab, rather than taking on every responsibility himself. Now, this delegation, we all understand, underscores the reality that leadership is not a solitary role, but rather a collective effort. When challenges arise, it is often the result of a combination of factors, including the individual actions of the communal behavior and the external circumstances. Now, with that being said, blaming leadership alone ignores the shared responsibility that exists within the whole society or an organization. Another key theme in this parsha is divine approval of the Mishkan's completion. That is the divine also direction. When Moses inspects the work and sees that this has been completed exactly as commanded, he blessed the people. This suggests that good leadership is not about avoiding difficulties altogether, but about guiding a group toward fulfilling a mission successfully and giving credit where credit is due. If failures occur, the responsibility should not be immediate blame on anyone, but rather an examination of whether leadership acted with integrity, wisdom, and accountability. Parshas Pikudi teaches that a leader must be evaluated based on their adherence to their principles and their ability to adapt and lead through challenges rather than solely by outcomes they produce. However, this does not mean leadership is never responsible when things go wrong. The Torah provides many examples of leadership who were held accountable by their actions. And obviously, one such story is Moses striking the rock instead of speaking to it, which led to his own demise in some aspects. Yet, the lesson from Parshas Pekudi is that blame should not be assigned reflectively. Rather than one must examine whether the leader acted with integrity and fulfilled his or her responsibility to the best of their ability. In modern times, these lessons are particularly relevant. Why? Because leaders in politics and business and community organizations often judge harshly when failure occurs. While accountability is crucial, it is equally important to recognize that leadership alone does not determine the outcomes. Societal issues, unforeseen challenges, and the actions of individuals all play a role in the success or failure. Effective leadership should not be assessed not merely by results, but by the process undertaken, the integrity displayed, and the lessons learned along the way. Often we have said to someone, especially our child, when they're doing a project, you give them a goal to achieve, taking out the trash or sweeping the backyard or raking the leaves. If they did a particularly bad job doing it, as a parent, we don't immediately jump on it and criticize the work. We look at the environment. Was the wind blowing? Was the child distracted? Did that child actually do his best? I have a beautiful grandson by the name of Levi who loves to do things for people. And if you give him a project, he will just go at it 100%. The sad thing is often it's not completed as it should be because he's 9 years old. But his effort meant everything, and his attention to detail means everything. And so you can't help but praise him instead of criticize him. And this is one of the aspects of a good leader, is to be able to see all of those elements. Now, we should not be scapegoated unfairly, instead immediately assigning blame to things that go wrong. We actually should strive for balance and approach, one that holds leaders accountable while also recognizing the complexity of challenges and the collective responsibility that all members of a shared community have. In conclusion, yes, a leader bears responsibility and takes blame for set outcomes. However, a functionally healthy community or organization has the responsibility to self-assess and take responsibility for the outcome. In conclusion of this shiur, I would like to add a little story that I heard 4 days ago. There was a man who was asked to speak at a giant rally for a president, and he was asked to go there by the president himself. And when he showed up at the door where all the VIPs were supposed to arrive, the Secret Service told him, "Nope, you're not on the list. You got to go." He said, "But you don't understand. I was asked by the president himself to come here." They said, "Sorry, hit the road." So they put him in the crowd where everybody was at. And because of his own particular prowess and responsibility, people just was all over him, talking to him, and crowd was, and he said he was just too nervous. So he and his wife and sons left, and they went home, and his sons were like, what happened? I don't know. He said, I don't know, a mix up. And so he gets a call from one of the aides to the president saying, "Where are you at? We're looking for you." He said, "Well, I wasn't on the list. So basically I was told, not to come." And he said, "Hold on, hang up, I'll call you back." Right? The next call he gets from a local senator. The senator said, "Hey, this is so and so." He was kind of shocked because he had never spoken to him. And the senator said, "I was just called by one of the president's aides. We're going to fix this out. Where are you at?" And he says, "I'm here." He said, "Okay, hang tight right there." Then he gets another call, and it's a strange number. He picks it up and he said, "Hi, this is so and so from the Secret Service. We apologize for what's going on. We'll give you a call back and tell you what to do next." Next thing, he gets a call, and who is it? It's the president himself. The president profusely apologized. Said, "I'm so sorry." And he goes, "No, no, no, no. You're the president. How would you know?" He's going through all the being nice to the president. President said, "No, I'm the president. I'm responsible. Secret Service I was responsible for telling them, and obviously I didn't communicate it properly. It's my fault. It's all done." Well, the story goes is the Secret Service gave him, along with the police department, a VIP escort all the way back to the stadium. So why did I say that? Is a good leader and people that are leading are not looking to blame somebody else, but looking to themselves as the source of the issue that needs to be addressed, whether for good or for bad. Now, when a community and its leaders assume the role of responsibility for their action, the effect has a profound and positive effect, not only on its immediate um, leaders that are around, but a community, a corporation, etc. And when I look at that, I realize that this is a great lesson. The construction of the Mishkan was at the highest level. It wasn't like Elon Musk making Tesla. It wasn't like Ford making Model Ts. It wasn't like sending rockets to space. It was about connecting the human to the divine. It was about drawing down the Shekhinah of God to the midst of the people. The utmost perfection needed to be done in every aspect. And it shows that Moses took personal responsibility to make sure that everything was in order. As a matter of fact, we'll read later on where he erects and takes down the temple throughout the whole week several times until he knew everything was in perfect running order. And then, of course, we know that the divine presence came to rest in the Mishkan on the Holy of Holies. May we, as B'nai Noach, and may as people of the world, the nations, and also our Jewish brothers and sisters, imbue themselves with a strong sense of leadership that we learned from Moshe Rabbeinu. We learn from him what it's like to be a responsible leader and to not always look to blame someone else, but to always look for ourselves as the potential solution. I've had this statement my entire life. I used to use in managing nonprofits and doing the things that I've done. I used to say, and Sandy will remember this, uh, a, a problem, let's see, a problem without a solution. Do you remember how the rest went? A problem without a solution is complaining. So if you have a problem, you need to have a solution. Other than that, you're just complaining, and that doesn't achieve anything. It also points back to a leader that points out a problem to an organization or to a group or to a community like our own without a solution. It's just a complaint. So whenever we talk to each other, if you have correction for me, if you see something we could do better, have a solution. And we'll all get together and be able to do what God has called us to do. So that concludes my very brief shiur. So let's get into the discussion of the text.